Greetings all. This is Assaan-ANU, and we are here again at another Foundational Friday through the Enlightenment and Transformation channel. In this session, we'll be dealing with the energy of conjoining through its expression of sex. The reason I'm expressing this topic and we're covering this on this Friday is because through my time of working with a multitude of people, whether they be clients or students or just people in passing who may request some counseling or some guidance, it gets a little sticky for some folks when you start prescribing rituals to them and they're either new to ritual or new to accepting their own ability to actually affect their reality. Some people are new to the empowerment model. For many years and for many ages and many seasons, people have nestled themselves within the comfort of the victim personality. It's really an illusionary comfort because to not change, to not empower yourself, means that you never really have to think creatively to do anything about your situation. And some find a comfort in that. Some find a comfort in the lack of self-accountability or contribution to their own success. But this has created a past season trauma that is now time to get past. Self-empowerment. Self-empowerment comes from gathering creative solutions to the issues, obstacles, and challenges that come in your life. And when you don't do that, when you're quick to point the finger at someone else, what happens is that you give that person power over the events that occur in your life, even when you're lying to yourself. Because remember, your subconscious does not know the difference between when you're playing make-believe and when you're quote-unquote being for real. So you lose the strength and the power of your word in lying to yourself and lying to others. So when you cannot take personal accountability, and the reality is there's no situation that has ever occurred in your life where you are not personally accountable for it, because you are the author of your life story, regardless of what has occurred to you. And I know for many that may be infuriating. It may ignite a hurt and a rage inside of you that is very difficult to see beyond, because maybe you're seeing the world through lenses of pain based on what you've gone through. But understand that whatever you have gone through, you selected and chose on a soulful level in order to learn what you needed to learn when you got here. Sometimes you have to go through traumatic situations in order to experience that pain and that suffering that rips your soul apart. Once your soul is ripped apart, you then ask yourself the critical questions that you may have been avoiding up until that point, regardless of what may have occurred to you. So a lot of times when it comes to ritual, when I'm prescribing something, you'll find, or I have found, that people don't want to be empowered to make the changes, especially people who've come to me over the years just for readings. And they're so used to the fortune teller experience where someone gives them the reading and they ask a couple of questions and they walk out with a renewed sense of revitalization, because they've been able to dump their fears and dump their concerns onto someone else. And they may have even offloaded the responsibility of repairing whatever they're going through onto someone else as well, through the use of work or even just asking certain questions. They may say, okay, well, can you do the spiritual work for me? I'll pay you extra. And that way they can skip off and think that that's going to create major change in their life. One of the things that people have consistently told me in my readings is that they've never done so much writing at a reading. I'm a stickler for recording whatever it is that I tell you, whether I record it digitally or you write it down, but also I'm a stickler for you doing your own work. So if you come to me for an hour reading, sometimes it'll run over because there may be another 25 minutes just where I'm giving you prescriptions to solve whatever it is that you have going on in your life. Now, for some, they love it, to be able to now take some personal direction in their lives and begin to have a personal hand in repairing what's going on in their lives. And for some, they're thrown off by it, not being used to actually feeling like they have the power to change any situation in life, however big, however small. So this brings us back to our subject of sex. I try to always choose rituals for people that are in alignment with what they're already doing. Young and old, we all have a primal desire and need to procreate. No matter how pious we want to make ourselves appear, how prudish or how sterile or inorganic we would like to express and present ourselves, at our primal and root levels, we want to procreate, and more importantly, we want to conjoin. So sex is something that can always be utilized by those who may not even be as spiritually in tune or as spiritually adept at doing certain types of rituals. Sometimes it's easier for a person to go have sex than it is to light a candle and say an affirmation over it, because once those affirmations start coming out of their mouths, they haven't raised up their fire high enough in that moment to actually really trust that whatever they're affirming in that moment is going to occur, that they're really actually truly getting ready to manifest and create a new reality. Through sex, it's a lot less difficult to bring yourself to that point of knowing, especially if in the act you're able to bring yourself to a place of ecstasy. Remember, in ecstasy comes your enlightenment, and through your corruption comes your transformation. So ecstasy is that light, it's that high, it's that orgasm, it's that climax, more specifically, that you reach. And at that moment of that climax is where the enlightened epiphanies come, but also that ability to dissolve yourself away from your bodily cage and actually get some real work done, even if it's only for a millisecond. Know, trust, and recognize that when you're doing ritual, you don't have to necessarily have the same mindset. If it's a 10-minute ritual for 10 minutes, it only takes half a second, a millisecond, 2 seconds for you to know without a shadow of a doubt that whatever you're doing is going to hit its mark. Right in that millisecond, you connect with your Ori Iponri, which is your higher self, or as we also say in Yoruba, your Ojiji, your shadow self, where the deposit of your prana or your chi or your ashe resides. So right at that specific moment is where everything happens. Keep in mind that when you're dealing with these celestial deities, there's no concept of time. Time is a humanly concept that keeps us caged into a dimension of gravitational pull, but also of linear thought. In the celestial and spiritual realm, that doesn't exist. Everything that you want to occur has already occurred. Every pathway, gift, and resource that your soul or your Ori has chosen at the time of your descension from Orun or heaven has already been granted. So the only thing that's in waiting is your development, is your growth. And that growth really is a byproduct of you accepting the immensity of your own power and the birthright, the inheritance that you come with. You have to keep in mind that when you're dealing with sex, that there's also a precognition that occurs prior to the act. There's a precognition and a prelude to sex that occurs the moment you set eyes on the person that you develop an attraction for. From that precise moment, you begin to plan, scheme, fantasize, and mentally design what the scenario and the acts that are going to play out between you and this person are to look like. So in effect, sex has begun in that moment. The conjoining of you two has begun in that moment. In this three-dimensional reality, one of the things that makes it such a prison is that the three-dimensional reality is so slow. The flesh is so slow. It's so dense, this dense matter that we move in. So spiritually, mentally, and oftentimes emotionally, you're already giving off things that the other person is picking up on. If you are one who's ever had an opportunity to study auras or to deal with them, and you can see the auras over people, a lot of times when someone is approaching you, you can see their intent, through the energy that is coming off of their aura. If their intent is that of sex and lust, you can actually feel and see that as you're speaking to them. And yours might be the same. That may be why they actually came over to you, because you attracted one another as being like beings. So you're attracting the same vibration or vibrational wavelength that you're vibrating on. So it's important, just like when we're dealing with our spiritual studies. I'll give you an example. With my previous cohort of students, I made a statement with them, and I did something different than what I typically do. And I told them, the more you share, the more I share. The more you teach, the more I teach. And what I meant by that was, if you're looking to use these techniques and strategies and rituals and knowings for your own personal enrichment and your own personal enlightenment, that's fine. There's nothing particularly wrong with that. But if you have a desire to raise up the people who are around you and awaken them through the raising of your own energy, then I will give you more. If you go out and share and you teach what has been taught to you, I will teach you more. And the best way, honestly, to learn is by teaching. So through your act of universal service and desiring to connect with those who are around you, some call that love, wanting to connect with other people through what you're learning and raise them up. That humility that you've taken on now compels me to teach you more. So sex is a similar act. When you engage in the sex act and you have a mind state of personal enrichment and you're just using the other person's body as a tool of orgasm, then you don't actually receive the full enlightenment that you would receive in that act, as opposed to if you're truly connecting with a person. Now, here's another critical piece that is important to understand, not only about the sex act, but about any force and activity that we may find ourselves wanting to engage in or compelled to execute. Throughout my book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power, as well as these broadcast series, we've seen and I've spoken about a lot of different examples of polarity, expressing to you that there is no good or bad, but only positive or negative polarity, push or pull, male or female, hot, cold. The list goes on and on and on. God and goddess, sky, earth. So with that said, even within those polarities exist multiple other polarities, right? So just like when we say we have Shango or we have Oshun, right? Oshun is a deity of love, so we're told, right? So even within that love, there is a polarity. Love is not just one way. Love can bring you to a place of knowing, but love can also bring you to a place of total transformation. It's very difficult to be touched by love and not be transformed. It's very difficult to be touched by love and not come out more knowledgeable, whether it be of yourself or of someone else, or just of life in general. So love expresses its own polarities. Now, Oshun or Mami Wata, we know are not only deities of love, but they're deities of fresh water. Well, within that fresh water, now typically we speak about water or female deities as being negative, right? Because water is receptive, it's cold, it's dark, or cool, and it's dark, and the female deities are contractive and not necessarily expansive. Okay, well, even within that contraction, even within that water, there still exist multiple polarities. For instance, water can be used to sustain life, but water can also be used to take life. Water can be used to heal, but water can also be used to erode a structure down to nothing. Water can be used to clean something. Water can also be used to rust something. Okay, so even within the polarity, we have various other polarities. Let's take Shango, for instance. All right, the first element of creation that we usually deal with is fire. And within that element of fire, we also have various polarities. Now, typically we're told that fire, and you've even heard me express this, because early on we were talking more macro language. Those who are now approaching the class, now we can get into more of the details for the classes that we're going to be teaching or going into. And I say we because I don't do it alone. You know, trust and know that there is a cohort and a cadre and a legion of spiritual entities, demons, angels, orishas, neturu, muertos, just homies that come behind me and propel me and compel me to do the things that I do. All right. So in the next series, as we're teaching, one of the things that we'll be getting into are those polarities. Now, in fire, you have the ability to cook your food, right? Fire brings life. The sperm that is injected into the woman is the life. In the Bible, God said, "Let there be life," when he looked down into the darkness. So his first act of creation was creating light, or creating that fire. As I expressed to you before, there is no light without fire. All right. So that fire can burn you, or it can cook your food. Fire can burn down a forest and destroy homes for many, or fire can warm and heat you. Okay. So there's a polarity of negative, positive, maybe even one might say more pleasant and less pleasant within even what's supposed to be a one polarity, because fire is supposed to be positive. It's supposed to be masculine. It's supposed to be expansive. Well, even within the expansiveness of fire, or in all of that, you still have a receptiveness. If you've ever looked at a flame flicker, you see that it goes up, it goes down, it goes left, it goes right, it goes out, it goes inward. So there's even a push and pull within that polarity of fire. With that said, we can clearly see the same thing as it pertains to wind, as it pertains to water, and even earth, which we oftentimes try to look at and see as being motionless. But we have volcanoes, and we have rock slides, and we have the swings and the motions of even trees, because a tree will be considered an earth energy as well. Even the way plants grow out of the earth, they protrude, they expand out, but then the earth also receives the seed. So it's only the neophyte or the childish spiritual worker that wants things either or. In the universe, there is no either or. In the universe, there is chaos, and from that chaos comes creative solution. We are a creative solution to the Almighty's chaos. Your Ori is a creative solution to the chaos of Olodumare, and that was to create the chaos of perfection. So Olodumare, in its infinite wisdom, said, okay, in order to further infinitize my wisdom, I can creatively section myself off. I can allow some of me to die. I can allow some of me to die in order to create more of me. This is what is more often than not missed in the sex act. The desire or the receptiveness to allow part of you to die, going off into the abyss in order for more of you to be created. Even if your intention is to create a child, there is still a dying of a sort. The man, of course, has to release some of what he is, and in Hindi culture, that ejaculation is called the small death or the little death. And in many tantric traditions, it is taught that should be withheld, unless, for certain occasions, but one shouldn't just randomly and flippantly release their seed. And there are various schools of thoughts on this. Some say that you should release your seed all the time and go off the cliff in the edge in that sense. It's up for you to decide with your Ori which works best for you, whether it's ejaculation or ejaculation. But keep in mind that, as I explained to you, the science of fire, the science of water, in terms of its various polarities, to choose one way to be is never the answer. So to only choose ejaculation would be wrong. To only choose ejaculation would be wrong. If we ejaculated all the time, then we would die out as a people. If we ejaculated all the time, we'd have no energy to get up and go find someone else to have sex with to continue ourselves as a people. So there has to be polarities within polarities. There are infinite possibilities within each strain and opportunity